Okay, so I've been talking with several of you, and some of you have, I should say several of you haven't even started on your paper. And that has me rather concerned because your rough draft is due in less than a week. I am not going to upload these to Blackboard. I suggest that you take whatever notes that you need to take for yourself. Here's the reason I will not upload these to Blackboard. It's because I have found that when I upload other student examples, current students will plagiarize from the examples that I upload. So I no longer upload student examples so that their work will not be taken. The first one that we're going to read is Superheroes More Than What Meets the Eye. And the reason that I'm showing you this is because when I went over the instructions, I walked you through the steps. Step 1, pick 2 texts. Step 2, analyze the argument. Now you're not only using the components of argument, but now you are also adding issues, themes, and critical lenses. After you've analyzed the arguments, the next step is to write a sentence for each text that identifies the claim and other parts of the argument. Then you're supposed to write your own evaluative thesis that compares the text. Now usually by now y'all will have rough drafts, and so I'll stand out in the hall with you while we're waiting for classes to begin, and I'll look at your rough drafts and I'll offer you some suggestions, and I'll help you smooth the step 3 over from 3 individual sentences into a sentence that is a comparative thesis statement for your own paper, which is what I'm getting ready to show you in the examples that I brought for today. However, what I'm finding is that a lot of you haven't even started, so there's no way for me to stand out in the hallway and try to help you with this step 3. So in order to help you with that, we're going to look at some examples. The first paper, I need to give credit to Megan Giddens. She was a dual credit student from Owasso. The title of her paper is Superheroes More Than What Meets the Eye. Let's scroll down to her works cited so that we are well aware of her sources. So, Iron Man, the movie, that was in 2008, and Mark Waid's The Real Truth About Superman and the Rest of Us Too, which you have already read for this semester. Please keep in mind that this is a rough draft so that you will be well aware of if you see errors. I know the errors are there, but I can't show you how I graded her. That is against FERPA law. But I am going to talk to you about what is done well. I can tell you that all of the essays that I'm showing you for today did well as rough drafts and did even better as polished papers. So we are going to take turns reading, and I advise you to read loudly because I am recording this lecture so I can upload it to Blackboard for you. If you don't read loudly, we're not going to hear your voice, and we're not going to be able to understand what's being discussed. So we are going to start in the very back with Christiane. Christiane, would you start us off, please?
Superheroes have been enthralling the minds of individuals everywhere for nearly the past century. As the rise of superhero movies and television shows occurs in today's society, many forget to ask the question, what motivates superheroes? People often believe that all superheroes fight for the same reason. It is a common misconception that there is just one universal explanation behind their actions. They want to save the world. Mark Waid's essay, The Real Truth About Superman and the Rest of Us Too, demonstrates that the complexity of superheroes, namely Superman, is one that often goes unnoticed. Waid is not alone in his psychoanalysis of superheroes. Popular culture pairs with discourses that exemplifies the underlying motive behind superheroes' actions. Marvel Studios' comic-based movie Iron Man also reveals a troubled crime fighter who warrants an extensive analysis. Both Superman and Iron Man are more than just costume crime fighters that they are portrayed to be. While Superman and Iron Man are seemingly different, they assume the role of a superhero in a similar manner.
Thank you, sir. So let's back up and let's analyze her introductory paragraph. Do we have a hook statement?
Yes.
What is the hook statement?
Superheroes have been enthralling the minds of individuals everywhere for nearly the past century.
Yes, exactly. And then does she start to introduce her topic?
Yes.
What is her topic?
She says that the motives behind why superheroes do what they do is actually it's same.
Keep going.
She states that the motivation behind why superheroes do what they do is a misconception in society, whereas like their actual actions are broadly undefined.
Yes, exactly. So she says everybody thinks that superheroes fight for the same reasons, and it's just a misconception. They all have their own reasons that they want to fight. So she has a hook. She's introducing her topic, which is superheroes and a misconception and the actions of superheroes. Then she introduces Mark Wade's text, and she says that he demonstrates the complexity of superheroes. Then she states that Wade is not alone, so she's adding flow. She's taking a little bit of information from the previous, putting it into her current, and now she's going to preview it. Not alone in his psychoanalysis, so we know something else is yet to come. She brings up discourses, and then she brings in Iron Man. And she says he's a troubled crime fighter. So we know that he's not just trying to save the world. Enter her complex thesis statement. Both Superman and Iron Man are more than costume crime fighters. While Superman and Iron Man are seemingly different, they assume the roles of a superhero in a similar manner. Now, she does not have all of the subclaims listed in her thesis statement, which is perfectly fine. She doesn't have to do that, because what she does is she uses very strong topic sentences to clearly define what her subclaims are. She's a very skilled writer, and she does her craft well. So let's continue. And now we're going to go to Jacob. And Jacob, I'm going to scroll down while you finish the paragraph.
To understand the reasoning behind both Superman and Iron Man's actions, the background of the superheroes themselves is imperative. The relation between the two extraordinary crime fighters stems to a constant in their family life. They are parentless. Although Superman's birth parents left artifacts that accompanied him on his journey, his parents were not a part of the rest of his life.
I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. So what she did is she has a topic sentence. All right, we want to understand Superman and Iron Man and why they do what they do. And then they say, in order to compare these two, we have to look at what their family life was like. And what was it? Parentless. Now, right after she states her comparison of the two characters, she provides evidence, which is what you're supposed to be doing for your essay. You need to support your comparison, and she does give the in-text citation. So she is doing perfectly what I have asked her to do according to the directions. So Superman's abandonment by his birth parents. Jacob?
Superman's abandonment by his birth parents undoubtedly left psychological damage, causing him to most likely feel alone in a world where he is already considered an outcast. This, in return, forced Superman to search for a new way to supplement the emotional support his parents would have initially provided him. Comparably, Iron Man, the superhero alter ego of Tony Stark, has had a devastating parental experience as well. In Iron Man, the Apogee Award presentation video for Tony Stark displayed a picture of an archived news article that announced the death of Stark's parents, Howard and Maria. Howard Stark was a legendary weapons developer and the founder of Stark Industries, an industrial company specializing in technology and weapons manufacturing. The death of Stark's parents left him as an orphan with the metaphorical weight of the future of Stark Industries sitting on his shoulders. The passing of his parents greatly affected Stark. The death of the head of Stark Industries presumably caused Stark to feel pressure to keep his father's company profitable.
Thank you. All right, so now what we have done is we have gone block by block. We have an introduction, then we have Superman, and then we have Iron Man. So she's introduced the topic, she's giving you the first person, she's giving you the second person, and while she's writing about each of these, she's comparing them but in their own way. What I want you to notice is her great flow of writing. So comparably is her transition. She takes you to Iron Man, and she has a great topic sentence. Has had a devastating parental experience. So we know we're talking about parental relationships and how they're the same for each of these characters. She introduces you to Tony Stark, telling you what happened to him, and then she gives you evidence. She takes these words from the movie. Legendary weapons developer. She makes sure that her movie is in italics so that that is done correctly. But what she didn't realize is that she needed to provide the screenwriters and the directors, correct? Okay. So I had to go back and tell her on a rough draft, remember you're making an argument for the directors and screenwriters, and she changed it in her polished paper. Then, after she has talked about what happened, well, she introduced Howard Stark, and then she says the parents died, and he has to run the Stark Industries. Then, the passing of his parents greatly affected Stark. So, dad, death, how it affected him, and what happened after his father passed away. He became the head of the company. So we have really smooth flow going through the paragraphs. The one comment that I had for her for this paragraph, besides the in-text citation, was that I wanted a little bit more quote. That was a very short quote for what she was doing, because it was only 3 words for the entire paragraph. So I would have liked to have seen at least a sentence within that paragraph, and she changed that in her finalized paper. All right, so we're on to the next reader, please.
It is very rare to find a superhero that battles malicious conduct for the sole reason of liberating the public. Most often, as demonstrated by Superman and Iron Man, there is a ulterior motive for each superhero's action throughout Superman's never-ending battle for truth and justice. There appears to be a higher moral obligation that is present. Despite being an alien from the distant planet of Krypton, Superman has a connection to humans. His connections consist of same basic need for community that is present in humans and is essential to fulfill his own happiness. The demand for a sense of belonging fuels Superman in his efforts to take the role of a protector. By putting his strength and superpowers to use, Superman prides himself for not only being a hero, for also being able to find a place for himself in the community. The accomplishment of finding a sense of belonging allows him to live with excellence. By doing so, Superman is able to fulfill his mission.
Thank you very much for reading that. All right, so in this one, we have some really awesome quote integration. Never-ending battle for truth and justice. She adds her own words. Higher moral obligation that's present. Now she did forget her ending quotation marks here, but she listed the page numbers respectively. So she took what Wade was saying and she made his quotes work for her argument. She did not alter the intent of his argument, which is how you build your ethos. This is how you build your credibility. Then she has another very small quote down here, and at the very bottom of the paragraph, she has another very small quote. We call these quote nuggets is where it's less than a sentence. So since she had 3 small quote nuggets within this paragraph, the quote usage within this paragraph is good. It's not lacking by any means. So if we go back up to the very first sentence, we know that she's talking about the reasons that people do something. So we have moved from family to reasons, and the topic sentence directs us to that subclaim. If you go back to the board, we had intro, we had Superman, we had Iron Man, and now we're in a Superman paragraph. Let's see where we go next in regards to her structure. And it says, next reader.
Similar to Superman, Tony Stark has another reason for being an Iron Man. Besides ensuring freedom and protecting America and his interests around the globe, Iron Man Stark's underlying motive comes from his need for redemption from the past sins and mistakes. His admiration for his father is evident throughout the movie. In Stark's return to
Christine
Everhart's comment during the conversation following the Applaud Awards, he labels his father and his father's efforts for the Manhattan Project for being a hero. Iron Man, during the press conference after Stark's return from being held captive in Afghanistan, he ponders the thought of Howard ever having doubts when dealing with Stark Industries' production of weaponry. Following his thoughts, Stark asked the crowd if his father, every inch of the man that they all remember in the newsreaders, Iron Man. The specific comment demonstrates that Tony Stark takes great pride in his father's addition to holding his father's higher moral standards. The fear weapons made by his company have already fallen into the wrong hands, and additional motive factors towards the actions as Iron Man.
I'm gonna stop you right there. Thank you very much. So here are brackets. What do the brackets mean inside of a quote?
Paraphrase.
We're adding words into the quote. Yes. So these are not directly within the quote, but she needs to identify who's speaking and who's being talked about. So when you see the brackets, we know that this was not in the original text, but she's trying to make her sentence grammatically correct. So we've gone back to Iron Man. She's doing comparative work, and while she's doing it, she's providing us with proof along the way. Okay? Now, Stark does not want the legacy of his father to be tarnished. He believes that the reason for him still being alive is to prevent any more suffering from happening at his hands. By taking on the role of Iron Man, Stark is able to finally redeem himself and make his father proud. This is a concluding sentence that reminds us of the purpose and the reason for this paragraph. We're not in the family subclaim, now we're in for other purposes for being a superhero. Yeah.
So does every paragraph have to have a comparison essentially between the two texts, or can you go one paragraph, explain what this paragraph is about, then the next paragraph compare the last one, the last text? Not so you're going through on let's say your second paragraph, you're comparing Superman. Paragraph 2, you're comparing Iron Man, and then your fourth paragraph would be comparing them both.
Yes, that would be a point by point, which is what we'll get to here in a minute. But right now, I'm trying to show you the organizational structure for comparison and contrast on what she used.
Okay.
So that y'all will know how to recognize what a comparison writing is and what you may need to do for your own writing.
Oh, I thought like everything had to be like that.
No, there are 2 ways to do comparison writing. One is block by block and one is point by point. And you can intermix the 2 to fit whatever purpose you have for your own writing. All right, next reader, please.
Other small instances are present between Superman and Iron Man.
Superman risks his life, although his alien abilities are superior to place the needs of others first. Iron Man also puts his life in jeopardy to ensure that dangerous technology does not become controlled by the enemy. For example, rather than building the dangerous Jericho missile for the Ten Rings, the terrorist organization that held Stark hostage, he builds himself a super suit. By doing this, he is able to save himself from being assassinated while simultaneously finding another use for the missile parts. Additionally, he made it a priority to destroy any remaining Stark Industries weapons that were not being used by the United States military. Another similarity between the two superheroes is that they both take to the skies boldly and unashamedly, using their superpowers to save lives and maintain the peace. Flying is a privilege that not many superheroes have, but both Superman and Iron Man use it to their advantage when trying to stop their opponents.
So this paragraph directly addresses the question that you just raised. So this is a point by point. Her topic list lets us know that she's going to discuss both Superman and Iron Man in this body paragraph. She first goes with Superman because she's keeping the order that she has in her introduction. She talks about him, offers evidence. The very next sentence is Iron Man. She talks about him. She offers evidence. And then she talks about both of them by stating the two superheroes and what they do. This is the point by point. This is where you would be alternating either every other line or every couple of lines, but they're both within the same paragraph. Now, her concluding sentence lets you know that she's driving home the purpose of this entire paragraph. And then she keeps her transition at the beginning of the next paragraph. So we are to test.
Although both Superman and Iron Man share similar qualities, they have their differences. As the way most of the cultural icons in the superhero world do, Superman has created a disguise for himself so that he can live a private, seemingly normal, everyday life. Superman's alter ego, Clark Kent, allows him to appear as a mild-mannered individual rather than a powerful alien from the planet Krypton. Visual deception is significant in order for Superman to sport a low profile and keep his true identity a secret from the public. If Superman did not have a disguise, he would not be able to have a conventional lifestyle, and people would, according to Wade, become retroactively paranoid and most likely panic. It is imperative for Superman to hide his identity as he is an alien, but this choice may cause people to question what other characteristics he is hiding. Furthermore, there may be individuals who come to resent Superman and consider him an outcast, which is exactly what he once was. If his true identity were to be revealed, Superman's progress to find a community to belong to would most likely be lost, and he would be back at his starting point.
Thank you, Tess. So this paragraph, is it a block or is it a point by point?
Point.
It is a block. It's all about Iron Man. She transitions from her point by point, and then she moves into Superman. So now our next paragraph is back to Superman. She discusses him, she offers evidence, and she does a different version on quoting. So the quote is at the end of the sentence, but she's giving recognition to Wade before it instead of after it. So she's trying to vary her writing style, which is something that I've asked you to do for this assignment. So we now know that she is definitely driving home her next subclaim, which is community. So first was family relations. Second was the reasons that they do things. And third, she's discussing community. So let's go to the next paragraph.
Unlike Superman, Tony Stark does not worry about people knowing his true identity. At the end of Iron Man, the last line of the movie consisted of Stark announcing to the room of reporters that the truth is he is Iron Man. He does not have to worry about living a normal life considering he is a human in a technology-powered exoskeleton. Society does not have the same fear for technology as they do for extraterrestrial beings. Humanity will still exist as technology thrives. While the suit that Stark created was once used as a way of survival, it has been created into an icon of power. Stark already has a massive ego, but the creation of his Iron Man suit only adds to it. The reason that Stark does not keep his identity a secret is because he strives for admiration. No person before him has ever created a suit such as his own. Stark Industries is at the top of the technology game, and Stark wants to be recognized for his impressive efforts. After realizing that his company was selling weaponry to the enemy, he wants to be known for something other than dangerous military weapons. Stark sees Iron Man as a way to be praised rather than be criticized.
Thank you, Stephanie. So in this paragraph, we only have one very short quote. So I let her know that's really not enough quote usage to support your comparison that you have going on. She has excellent analytical work, but she needed a little bit more quote usage. This became an entire block dedicated to Iron Man. So what she did is she introduced her topic, she discussed Superman, she discussed Iron Man, she discussed Superman again, then Iron Man, and she reminded the reader, hey look, this is why I'm comparing them. So she gave you a little bit of a break from these long blocks. Then she's gone back to her block technique. Now that she's giving your brain a break, now she's going to go back into longer bits of information. So let's see what she says next. So we are down to you, Jeremy.
While comparing Superman and Iron Man, it's seemingly unconventional. They are more alike than most would think. Despite being physically different, as Superman is an alien and Iron Man is a man in a technologically advanced suit. Both share commonalities as they take on the responsibilities that come with being superheroes. The devastating home life as well as the self-fulfillment that both characters strive to achieve lead them to be exceptional in their endeavors. The depiction of the costume liberators is changing as more individuals take a deeper look into what is the driving factor between their life-risking engagements. Superheroes are not so different from the average person. The choices they make are influenced by various circumstances that occur in their lives. As people finally begin to understand that superheroes are more relatable than many might believe, the idea that anyone can be a hero may become more prevalent in the future. Heroes are essentially to providing hope for society as individuals work to exceed expectations as well as overcome the boundaries that were once created.
Thank you very much. So we just read her conclusion, and what I want you to notice is that her conclusion has to use the point by point in order to wrap up her argument. Okay? So there are no quotes in her conclusion. It's all her own words. She reminds you what she did. She says, hey, we compared Superman and Iron Man. And she says, they're more alike than what you might think. Because let's stop and think about it. What is Tony Stark / Iron Man known for?
Rich?
Rich, playboy, drunk. Right? That's what he's known for. Not until we get into like Iron Man 3 do we get him starting to be like, hey Pepper, I want to settle down with you, right? Up until that point, he's all about being a ladies' man. Superman, on the other hand, is he known for being rich, playboy, and a drunk? No. What is he known for?
Boy Scout.
He's the Boy Scout, right? The chest is all out in the air, and he has little squirrely hair going down, and he's looking up, and oh, don't you just want to be like me? Yes? Okay, everybody stand up. Stand up. So now, you want to stand with your feet at least a little bit further than your hips, and then you want to take your hands, you want to make a fist. You want to put the fist at your natural waist. which is the skinniest part of your torso. Then you want to push your chest out a little, just lift up your head. This is called the superhero pose. This pose has scientifically been proven to increase your confidence and make you feel better. So yes, I do this before class. No, you gotta hold it. Gotta hold the pose. Don't you just feel better? Okay. Now normally you would hold that pose for 5 minutes. Oh no. You would hold the pose for 5 minutes, and seriously, they've done like research studies on this. It really does make you feel better. It improves your confidence, and in fact, no joke, our police, firefighters, emergency responders are known for doing this exercise a lot because it does increase confidence. Okay? So if you ever have a test and you're highly anxious, do the Superman pose. So she's like, hey, most people think they're not alike, but they are alike. And they share these commonalities. What are the commonalities that they share?
Not just doing it because it's good. They have their own personal reasons and they both feel alienated for different reasons.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So this was a really awesome rough draft, right? There's good content, the length is there. Yes, there's some things that need to be changed, but that's what the revision and proofreading process is all about, yes? Okay, so this is Megan Gibbons, and now I want to show you another one. Now I want to take you to Anthony Willett's paper. He was, or is, I don't know if he's graduated yet. I think he's about to graduate. He was a music major, and he is heavily into Disney movies, so it was really nice to have him in the class because I actually had somebody to talk Disney with, because most people don't want to talk Disney, because they're afraid that people will look down upon them if they're known for watching children's movies. But most of our animated movies aren't for children anymore, right? They're for an entire audience. The title of his essay is A Broken World. Let's go look at his works cited page. He is using the movie, or the book, The Hunger Games, and he's using the movie Zootopia. Now that is a rather odd pairing, don't you think?
Yes.
So are you curious as to where he's going to go? Let's find out. So we are going to read A Broken World. I'll start us off with the introduction. The world is complicated. There is so much to take in that human mind cannot comprehend it all. When the human mind fails to comprehend, however, it does well to simplify. It does this by creating the binary division that exists in most societies. For example, pretty versus ugly, smart versus stupid, and successful versus unsuccessful. There are other common binaries in the media, such as the strong versus the weak, and the rich versus poor binaries in Susan Collins' The Hunger Games trilogy. Two other binaries are the predator versus prey, and the big versus the small binaries in Disney's Zootopia. It's presumptuous to categorize people like this, especially when oppression occurs. Perhaps what the Hunger Games and Zootopia mean to show is that binaries do not define a person. Rather, it is the complex combination of these binaries that do. Does he have a hook? Does he introduce his topic? Does he tell you what text he's going to compare? Does he have a thesis? Does he use a 3-part thesis?
Yep.
No, he doesn't. So what does he have to have in his paper if he doesn't use a 3-part thesis?
Theme, critical ends, etc.
Yes, strong topic sentences and strong concluding sentences. Those parts of composition guide the reader through your argument. Without them, the paper will fail. So let's see what he does. Now, if you will notice, he introduced the Hunger Games trilogy, and then he introduced Zootopia. However, this very first paragraph has Zootopia. So one of the comments that I gave him was, hey, your body paragraphs are out of order. If you talk about Hunger Games first, your first body paragraph should be talking about Hunger Games. You need to keep the same order. So here we go. In Zootopia, Judy Hopps is an optimistic bunny with dreams of protecting the city as Zootopia's first bunny cop. Growing up, Judy's school bully, Gideon Gray, and even Judy's parents tell Judy repeatedly that, for a bunny, being a cop is impossible. There's never been a bunny cop. Bunnies don't do that, Stu, Judy's father tells her. However, while one may say Judy lies on the small end of the big versus binary, there is another binary in which she proves more beneficial, and that is the motivated versus apathetic binary. Don't you just want to laugh? I mean, isn't it rather comical? Do we ever really think about apathetic versus motivated? Not really. This is awesome. I mean, like, come on, doesn't it make you want to smile? It does me. Judy knows her stature puts her at a disadvantage in her field of interest, but her motivation to succeed allows her to overcome such obstacles as large opponents, harsh environments, and filthy toilets. We have some humor going on, right? Now, what is missing in his first paragraph? Does he have a full sentence of quote? No, not at all. So he has more summary than he does quote. So I told him that he needed to change that for his next version of his paper. So now we're going to go into the next paragraph, and I believe we're at Allie.
There are also instances in which Judy's small stature works to her advantage when a weasel robs a local store. Judy pursues him in an effort to prove herself as a worthy cop. In her pursuit, Judy follows the weasel into the little Rodentia,
I think.
I don't know, a suburb of Zootopia dedicated to rodents. The entrance is small, but because of her small size, Judy has no problem maintaining the pursuit. This demonstrates that even apparent weaknesses can become strengths.
Okay, so here he is. He's stating what he is comparing within these two things. And he said that he was definitely going to see what these binaries do define and what they don't define. So he's reminding you where he is, but it's kind of a little bit unclear as to where he's going because his topic sentences aren't strong enough. So we're down to our next example.
So is he using the trilogy or just the first book?
That's what I told him he had to clarify, because he's not supposed to use a trilogy. He's only supposed to use the book. Good question. Your turn, sir.
A similar example occurs in the Hunger Games trilogy. That's cool. Katniss Everdeen is an average teenager in District 12, one of the 12 districts run by the capital. The capital is a great source of wealth, only willing to share its wealth to the districts whose tribute wins the annual Hunger Games. All year, the capital will show winning districts gifts of grain and oil and even delicacies like sugar, while the rest of us battle starvation. Katniss narrates. Though Katniss is poor and the capital is rich, Katniss' love for her family and friends in District 12 motivates her to do whatever it takes to protect them. To do that, sorry, I lost her.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. To do that, she must rebel against the capital and survive the Hunger Games to resume her role as a caretaker. In this example, Katniss demonstrates that her status as a poor in the rich versus poor binary is irrelevant when paired with status as strong in the strong versus weak binary.
Alright, so he's reminding you why he's discussing this. Who would have thought to compare Zootopia and Hunger Games? I would not have gone there. Like, he blew me away with what he decided to do. I was like, really, Anthony? That's pretty cool. Go for it.
No offense. I think you can compare like a lot of movies because they all set out with this like motive of there's a problem and you need to solve it, and you can't solve it because you don't fit the criteria to solve it.
Oh, I would take offense to it because that is what we do with every single thing. But my mind would not have gone to Zootopia and Hunger Games because I don't have little kids in my house anymore, right? So what's playing on my TV is not Disney movies. It is all my superheroes and all my action and sci-fi. Yes, my kids are grown and gone. Mom can watch what she wants until the grandbaby comes over. So yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's see. Camille, do you want to read?
To take it a bit further, one may even say it is a fact that Katniss grows up poor that facilitates her becoming strong. Katniss' economic status is indicative of her father's death. When Katniss' father dies, the responsibility of two parents is thrust upon her mother. But her mother, in grief, is in no state to raise two children by herself. Responsibility is then passed on to Katniss. With her bow as her trusted weapon, she takes it upon herself to provide for the family, and her skill as an archer becomes a great asset in the Hunger Games, and by extension, the rebellion.
Thank you very much. So again, he's missing quotes in this paragraph, but it's very easy to go back and insert some quotes to support what you're thinking, right? I mean, if you follow a theme, which is why I have you do the annotations, you're going to be able to go back easily and find the quotes that you need. So he's been doing block by block, and another interesting binary comes from symbolism. So this one becomes all about symbolism. Let's look at his concluding sentence. Likewise, in the real world, it can be said just because one person is white and the other is black, one should not be favored for things like intelligence or strength, because those qualities are independent of skin color. Topic, concluding. We know what that paragraph is about. So this was rather strong. On the other hand, one contradictory example of stereotype in Zootopia comes from Flash the Sloth. So now he starts to talk about being slow in movement. So let's go down. He says, he also shares the joke with his coworker Priscilla. In the sociable versus shy binary, this means Flash leans towards sociable, which shy's theory despite his slowness. So here he's going to be analyzing why people are viewed in certain ways. He's still doing it, he's still doing well. Let's just go down to, here it is. Let's go read his conclusion. We are to the other side, Savante.
The fact that the oppressed are able to overcome their oppressors in the end is strictly done so that interactions of not just one binary, but many. Utopia's Judy Hopps' motivation to excel in police detection despite her size and status, and the Hunger Games trilogy's Katniss Ebony uses strength to encourage the rebellion that overthrows the tyrannical capital. It is even possible for alleged weaknesses to become strengths. As Judy, the diminutive stature and Katniss's extreme poverty demonstrate, overall labels are oversimplifications. No one word can sum up people or their capabilities. It takes a collection of these words or more to do them justice.
Alright, so let's look at his last couple of sentences. Do these last couple of sentences basically summarize what he's been doing in this paper? Has he been talking about labels?
Yes.
Does he demonstrate that sometimes we oversimplify labels when we should be looking at broader context?
Yes.
And that's what this course is asking you to do. I'm asking you to consider the rhetoric of different opinions for all of your papers. Okay? So this was Zootopia. I thought you might like something a little bit lighthearted. right? But we also have Hunger Games, which is not exactly lighthearted. And then now we have Harry Potter. So this was Megan Phillips. And again, this is a rough draft, so yes, you are going to see errors in the rough draft. But let's find out what is on her works cited page before we begin. So she is actually using the book, The Goblet of Fire, and she is using an episode from the TV show Merlin. And this episode aired in 2009. So I had to talk to her about her citation because obviously she can't remember everything that's been said back in 2009, which is almost a decade later. So we had to correct that. Let's read the conclusion first. Two completely different stories from two completely different eras share many commonalities that can be drawn between them. The commonalities include the fate of the character, their brilliant displays of bravery, and finally, the shared primitive nature of entertainment. To have a destiny and to know about the destiny seems to define each of the characters' lives. Bravery seems to be within the theme of competitions, whether the competition is the Triwizard Tournament or a simple jousting match as shown in Merlin. In both stories, Harry Potter and Merlin, the characters, Harry Potter and Arthur, compete in a competition for glory and bravery, yet the competition is a form of entertainment for others. So I already know which two texts are going to be analyzed. I already know what she's going to be talking about. She's drawing commonalities about fate, displays of bravery, and entertainment. So when I go back up to the top of her paper, I am going to be looking for those things. All right, so to Caleb.
Competing in a creating competition that serves as a testament to one's bravery, all the while providing entertainment to the people of the world. Statements such as that is specific yet can apply to multiple stories such as Harry Potter and the Triwizard Tournament and Arthur jousting in the show Merlin. Harry Potter and Arthur both had destiny, and it was fate that led them to their respective competitions. Both the Triwizard Tournament and jousting competitions are a chance to prove one's bravery. While competition has a noble purpose, it is also used to serve as a form of entertainment for onlookers. Although these stories share many commonalities, both stories are able to make themselves unique by creating elements of festival in different memorable ways.
Okay, so she does a lot of point by point. So she doesn't start with this broad hook, start with this plan of development, introduce the first text, introduce the second text, merge her own thesis into all of this. So what do you think of the difference in style between this and the other two?
I think the other one's clear.
You think the other one's clearer? Okay. Anybody else agree, disagree? There is no right or wrong answer.
It seems simpler to do a specific comparison about being like, this competition rather than grand themes of like, labels, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we all have the different ways in which we think, right? We all process information differently. So for her, she's thinking of them at the exact same time. So she's having to write about them at the exact same time. That's just how she works. We all have our own writing process. So let's go down to her topic sentence. To have a destiny and to know about the destiny seems to define the character's life. So destiny, we'll go up here. Noble purpose. Well, destiny would be a good synonym for noble purpose, so we have a topic sentence. Let's scroll down to her concluding sentence for the paragraph, which is way down here. In both stories, they have friends who aid, support, guide, challenge, and encourage each other and push them to fulfill their destiny and be great. So again, we're talking about destiny. However, this is a very long paragraph, and I told her it might be better to break the paragraph up because there is a lot of information that's going on in here. Let's go to the second one. Bravery seems to be one of the most important and apparent themes of competition, whether the competition is the thing that's trying to bring to a tournament or a jousting match. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, so she says, all right, here's the two that I'm comparing. Here's the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Goblet of Fire. And we are to Sammy.
Albus Dumbledore describes the Triwizard Tournament as eternal glory. That's what awaits the student who wins the Triwizard Tournament. But to this, that student must survive 3 tasks, 3 extremely dangerous tasks. Albus Dumbledore emphasizes the need for bravery, warning the students of the risks the tournament entails, as well as the rewards. Harry Potter, who is aware of his destiny and born famous, but not knowing his importance until later in life, wants nothing to do with the thought of eternal glory. Harry never wished to be famous and never sought ways to become more famous. Although when fate placed him in the tournament, he showed bravery by not backing down or giving up any of the tasks despite adversity, inexperience, and fear. He tried his best and never once played the game safe. Similarly, in Merlin, Arthur was born famous as the Prince of Camelot. Arthur was aware of fame and was constantly under scrutiny to perform. With this added pressure, he did not seek further fame, yet competed as part of his duties as a knight and prince.
All right, I'm gonna stop you right there. So she's going on and on and on, and there's no quote. So what does this turn into?
Summary.
Exactly, it turns into summary. Although she is comparing, she has to back it up with evidence. Otherwise, you are just summarizing. The evidence is what supports your comparison. You can't just tell the reader what's going on, you need to show the reader. She also uses capital letters, which you do not use all caps, not unless that was in a book, which it wasn't printed that way.
I thought that was a book that she was
It was, but it wasn't printed that way in the book.
Oh, really?
I went and I checked it. You don't use the quotation marks on an extended quote, those would be off, and she's needing to list who the screenwriters and directors are for this television show. So then she goes into a transition. In both works, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and Merlin, the characters Harry Potter and Arthur compete in the competition for glory bravery. So she's reminding you where she's at in her sentence. So one of the reasons that I want to show you this is she has a really solid argument going on in her paper, okay? She is comparing, but what she is lacking at this point in her rough draft is quote usage and good organization. There are a lot of mechanical errors that she should already know how to do being a Comp 2 student. You should already know how to use quotations. So we had to review that as well. The reason that I'm showing you these examples is because I'm trying to help you smooth this over the step 3 that you have for this essay, okay? I wanted to show you some different ways on how to do this. You are Composition 2 students. You don't have to list the 3 components, but if you don't, if you just have a main thesis and you don't use strong topic and concluding sentences, your grade's gonna go way, way down.
What does it say? Issues, themes, what? Critical lenses. Oh, sorry.
I know, sloppy handwriting.
No, it's not you. Me.
No, it's my handwriting. I know it is. So do these examples help you to better understand what I'm looking for out of your papers?
Yes.
Yes, no? Some yeses, yes, go ahead.
Quick question. Shoot, I forgot it. Oh, so it would be okay how she wrote, with the summary, as long as you back up your summary with either the example or a scene or whatever you're trying to analyze, I guess. like a
Summary
quote.
is where you're telling what happens in something without providing a quote. But she needs to bring in critical lensing, which she's not doing yet in her rough draft.
So-
So she needs more to her essay. All right. So I want to remind you that your rough draft is due before class on October 11th. You are bringing hard copies to class. You're uploading to discussion board, and you're going to upload to a rough draft link, which I will show you on October 9th, where that is located, so that you can upload it to both of those places. Do you have any other questions about Essay 2?
So we're referencing the authors in the same way that we did the last way, basically. So instead of the movie, it's, using the author's name.
Yes, because you're analyzing their arguments.
And you said evaluative thesis, so rather than saying something like, they both use a feminist criticism, we would say something like, this one does a better feminist criticism?
If you wanted, you have to state something about them, and it's better to state if somebody does something better than another, but you don't have to. So evaluative means you're not just summarizing. I'm asking you to make an opinionated statement.
Mm-hmm.
So like, piggyback off what she's saying, not comparing like which one did it better, but maybe talking about how in the way that they both did it.
You can say somebody did it better than the other. Yes, that's still comparison. It's your choice. As long as it's comparative work. There is some freedom in my class. Okay. Now for today, you read Robot Consciousness, which started on page 463 and goes to 469. Nope. Oh, come on. Tell me you're not gonna work. Oh, really? Try that. Ha! You have it. Alright. So, there were 3 stories that you read for today. You have Eric, and I have no idea how to pronounce his last name. Yes, Jacob.
We turn a light on.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric Gable, I don't know. So he wrote, we have greater moral obligations to robots than to humans. And then turn the page to Kim Chang. Can robots become conscious? And then turn the page to Dan Falk. How long before robots think like us? Now, the whole reason that I asked you to read these texts is because AI consciousness is a huge continuum of opinion in our society. Like, there is so much rhetoric regarding AIs and robots and what's going to happen. So we have drone cars delivering packages. We have Uber cars that are driving customers to where they need to go all by themselves, right? We have robot dogs, and we have AI humanoids, which I told you about before, and I got the same look that I'm getting now. I'll show you here in a minute. So let's talk about, what does Eric Schwitz's Gable say? What is his overarching argument? I'm not asking you to dissect everything. Jacob.
He states that because we've created robots or artificial intelligence, that it becomes our obligation or our responsibility to make sure that we're providing a good life for these AI and taking care of them and making sure that they're happy and sufficiently taking care of them.
Yeah, exactly. Good summary. That's exactly what this essay is all about. Now, if we turn the page to Kenneth Chang, Can Robots Become Conscious? What is the overarching argument in this essay? What does he think? Does he answer his own question?
Is this the one where he's asking a bunch of different questions and it's more of like bringing different opinions rather than his own one?
He is bringing in a lot of different opinions, yes. So he is representing the continuum of opinion, and it's very hard to understand where he falls. But he says here, he argues that consciousness is an effect of quantum mechanics in tiny structures in the brain that exceeds the abilities of any computer. Up above that, and if a person gets into involved conversations with the robot about everything from baseball, will be practically certain they are conscious as other people. So he's saying if robots can do certain things, we'll classify them as conscious. But they have to fall underneath a certain criteria. And so he's wanting you to question, what is that criteria going to be that we establish for consciousness? Then you move into Dan Falk's, how long before robots think like us? And it opens with the Terminator films. It moves into a space odyssey. I mean, how fitting is that? How the computer kills off his crewmates, right? In this one, he starts talking about the Turing test, Turing. And he says, a robot can be considered conscious if they can trick an interrogator X percentage of the time, all right? And so he walks you through all these studies that have been done. He tells you what happens. He tells you how many people participate in it. And he says the most successful one was an AI named Eugene. And he tricked the judges 29.2% of the time. So he was just shy of that 30% threshold mark that they said they were going to require that robots were considered conscious beings. He continues his argument by talking about the nature of the test. And he talks about the progress of AIs, their navigation system in cars, the apps on cell phone, the internet, all these different things. That very simplistic idea that we're trying to imitate a human being has sort of become an embarrassment, says Pat Hayes of the Institute for Human Machine Cognition in Pensacola, Florida. It's not that we're failing, which is what a lot of people think, is that we've decided to do other things which are far more interesting. Do you believe him? Do you think they've given up on creating? Nah, I don't believe him either. And down here, successful liar, right? Turn the page over to 469. And he says, in the concluding paragraph, perhaps we're closer than we think to true AI. After the Wright brothers aeroplane lifted off in 1903, skeptics continue to debate whether we're really flying, an argument that simply faded away. It may be like that with AI, as Hayes argues. You could argue we've already passed the Turing test. If someone from 1950 could talk to Siri, he says, they were talking to a human being. There's no way they could imagine it was a machine because no machines could do anything like that in 1950. So I think we've passed the Turing test, but we don't know it. So he's arguing we do have conscious AIs. It's just because our technology keeps progressing that we keep pushing what we consider to be consciousness. So stop and think about it. 1950. A box called a computer or a phone. And you say, hello Siri, look up how to get to TCC Northeast Campus. And it talks back to you. And it almost sounds pleasant. Okay? So what makes consciousness? Why are people so afraid to say that robots do have consciousness?
We have a sense of uniqueness and afraid of technology, period. We want to be the only ones like us. We don't want something that we made to be like us.
Yes. We do not want the robots to overthrow us, kick us out of power, and we become the oppressed. Right?
Superiority complex.
It is a superiority complex. You got it. Now, given all this that we just discussed, I'm going to take you to the videos that were on your core syllabus for today. So back in the day, in the 1990s, there was a TV show called Star Trek The Next Generation. Could you please get the light so I can explain who these people are? So this is Patrick Stewart. He plays Jean-Luc Picard, which is the captain of the Enterprise. This is Lieutenant Commander Data. He helps do science and navigate the helm. And then we have the person over here who is causing a conflict in this scene, which I'll get to in just a minute. Who is not pictured yet in the scene is the court judge and the prosecutor against Data. So here's what's going on. Data is an android. He's a sentient android, or at least that's what everybody around him says that he is. In fact, they don't call Data an it, they call him a he, because that's how he identifies. So Data's been working on Star Trek. He's been working on the Enterprise for many years. He's been working his way up in the ranks. He has one day to be a captain. And voila, this person shows up on the Enterprise and he says, here are your transfer orders. You are to report to Starbase such and such. We are going to disassemble you so that we can make more of you. Data's like, I'm not going. He's like, you have to go. You're property of Starfleet. You're not a human. You're a machine. You're an android. You're an it. Okay? Well, they're way out in deep space, so there's no way to get back to a court of law. So they have to find the nearest starbase. Then they have to get the top-ranking official. That becomes the court, the judge. Then they have to decide who's going to be the defender, who's going to be the prosecutor. Well, because Captain Picard values Data, he decides to defend him. And because Will Riker also values Data, he prosecutes Data. Because if he doesn't, then they're just going to make Data go anyway. So he reluctantly does his job, and he does it very well, which you won't see in the scene. But here in the scene, we're going to argue whether or not an android can be sentient. So let's find out what they have to say about this.
Maddox, Bruce, Commander. Current assignment, Associate Chair of Robotics, Daystrom Technological Institute. Major paper.
Yes. Suffice it to say he's an expert. Commander, is your contention that Lieutenant Commander Data is not a sentient being and therefore not entitled to all the rights reserved for all life forms within this Federation?
Data is not sentient, no.
Commander, would you enlighten us? What is required for sentience?
Intelligence, self-awareness, consciousness.
Prove to the court that I am sentient.
This is absurd. We all know you're sentient.
So I am sentient, but Commander Data is not.
That's right.
Why? Why am I sentient?
Well, you are self-aware.
Ah, that's the second of your criteria. Let's deal with the first, intelligence. Is Commander Data intelligent?
Yes. It has the ability to learn and understand and to cope with new situations.
Like this hearing?
Yes.
What about self-awareness? What does that mean? Why am I self-aware?
Because you are conscious of your existence and actions. You are aware of yourself and your own ego.
Commander Data, what are you doing now?
I'm taking part in a legal hearing to determine my rights and status. Am I a person or property?
And what's at stake?
My right to choose. Perhaps my very life.
My rights. My status, my right to choose. My life. Well, seems reasonably self-aware to me, Commander. I'm waiting.
This is exceedingly difficult.
Do you like Commander Data?
I don't know it well enough to like or dislike it.
But you admire him.
Oh, yes. It is an extraordinary piece
of engineering and programming. Yes, you have said that. Commander, you have devoted your life to the study of cybernetics in general.
Yes.
And Commander Data in particular.
Yes.
And now you propose to dismantle him.
So that I can learn from it and construct more.
How many more?
As many as are needed. Hundreds, thousands if necessary. There is no limit.
Single data, and forgive me, Commander, is a curiosity. A wonder even the thousands of datas. Isn't that becoming a race? And won't we be judged by how we treat that race? Now tell me, Commander, what is data?
I don't understand.
What is he?
A machine!
Is he? Are you sure?
Yes!
You see, he's met 2 of your 3 criteria for sentience, so what if he meets the 3rd? Consciousness in even the smallest degree. What is he then? I don't know. Do you? Do you? Do you? Well, that's the question you have to answer. Your Honor, a courtroom is a crucible, and if we burn away irrelevancies until we are left with a pure product, the truth, for all time. Now, sooner or later, this man, or others like him, will succeed in replicating Commander Data. And the decision you reach here today will determine how we will regard this creation of our genius. It will reveal the kind of a people we are, what he is destined to be. It will reach far beyond this courtroom and this one android. It could significantly redefine the boundaries of personal liberty and freedom, expanding them for some, savagely curtailing them for others. Are you prepared to condemn him and all who come after him to servitude and slavery? Your Honor, Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits. Waiting. You wanted a chance to make law. Well, here it is. Make it a good one.
It's as if they're looking at me, and I don't know what it is. This case has dealt with metaphysics, with questions best left to saints and philosophers. I'm neither competent nor qualified to answer those. But I've got to make a ruling to try to speak to the future. Is Data a machine? Yes. Is he the property of Starfleet? No. We've all been dancing around the basic issue. Does Data have a soul? I don't know that he has. I don't know that I have. but I have got to give him the freedom to explore that question himself. It is the ruling of this court that Lieutenant Commander Data has the freedom to choose.
So he officially declines to go with him, and he says, get back in touch with me because part of what I find that you're doing is intriguing, which is a high compliment coming from Data. Okay? Now, couple that with Sophia, the humanoid robot. I've told you about her in class before, and I want to fast forward this because I want you to see what she looks like.
Interaction that they have, and we're also experiment.
Okay, so they've gone beyond just Sophia, and they've built another one. However, you won't see any of the gloves or anything on him. Now, since this has aired, you can see up here the dark hair, the dark eyes, right? So they have continually made it to where she's not going to appear so robotic. Now, what I want to show you is some comedy with Sophia. She actually appeared on the Jimmy Kimmel Live show. And I'm going to fast forward to where she comes on the show. All right. Now, there is no one speaking into a computer that is saying the words that is coming out of the robot's mouth. This is the robot that is going to be speaking.
David Hansen and his robot, Sophia. Oh my gosh, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Nice to meet you as well. David, you brought a friend with you here, and this is really kind of freaking me out.
Yeah, this is Sophia.
Uh-huh.
And Sophia is a social robot, and she has artificial intelligence software that we've developed at Hansen Robotics, which can process visual data. She can see people's faces, she can process conversational data, emotional data, and use all of this to form relationships with people.
Okay, so, I mean, she's basically alive, is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, she is basically alive. Would you like to maybe give it a try? Sure. Give her.
I'll just say, listen, this is like, you see how awkward my first date turned. It's a robot. I'm getting nervous around a robot, a very pretty robot. So what do I just say hello to?
Yeah.
Hi, Sophia.
Hello, Jimmy.
I got it. Do you know where you are?
Of course. I'm in New York City, and I'm on my favorite show, The Tonight Show.
Sophia, can you tell me a joke?
Sure. What cheese can never be yours?
What cheese can never be mine? I don't know.
Nacho cheese.
yeah, that's good. That's right. I like nacho cheese.
Nacho cheeses. Ew.
Gosh, ew.
I'm getting laughs.
Yeah.
Maybe I should host the show.
Okay, all right. Stay in your lane, girl. No.
Jimmy,
Would
you like to play a game of rock, paper, scissors, robot style?
Sure.
Okay, let's get this game going. Show me your hand to start. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I won. This is a good beginning of my plan to dominate the human race. Just kidding.
Yeah. You are incredible. It's so nice to meet you, Sophia.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Friend me on Facebook.
I will, yeah. All right, gotta do that. It's up to you, everybody.
She has a Facebook account, no joke. And this one is by Brain Bar. This is where she gets citizenship in Saudi Arabia. And we will listen to some more of this. Yes, I know I'm keeping you a minute over. But I really want you, can somebody grab the lights, please? I really want you to consider the rhetoric regarding AI and consciousness and what cultural values shape our definition and our labels and classifications for these things. Beginning of the semester, when I told you there was an actual AI that toured the nation, y'all kind of like laughed and looked at me with these really funny faces. I don't think you believe me. I was being truthful. They have built more. There are more humanoid robots. I want you to think about how that makes you feel, and we'll discuss some more of it in the next class. Go forth and think so.